Dun,
Bow, bow,
Where's our faces?
bow, bow.
No.
Bow.
Hey, what's happening?
What's happening?
Happy
Welcome
Friday,
everybody.
y'all.
Happy Friday. Happy Hoodie Hat Friday.
Yeah,
Happy Hoodie Hat
I'm
Friday.
glad we're running this back at least until I think we sort of bailed on it when it got warm, right? Like when summer came and it got hot, we kind of bailed on this. But
Yeah, we were sitting there. We were doing this last year, and I would come in. I'm like, it's Hoodie and Hat Day. I'm in a hoodie and hat. And you're like, yeah, it's really warm outside.
yeah, I would say this. I do this from my garage, and like in the winter, it gets brutally cold in here, and it's great for Hoodie and Hat Friday. And then in the summer, it's like ungodly hot, and I have to sort of bail on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although you can keep hoodie and hat in this specific studio for a very long time. Where I'm at stays cold just forever.
Well, studios are supposed to be cold. It keeps your everything moving. It keeps you awake. If a studio was warm, everyone's be falling asleep like John Ireland during
Oh, the Ireland shots at 8:30 a.m.
Hey, I'm at home on a Friday. This is going to be a typical thing that happens on Hoodie and Hat Friday. And if I want to take a shot, sometimes you got to take a shot.
Yeah, no, I love it. So I mean, I would usually say a lot to get into, but honestly, there's not a lot of Dodgers stuff going on. So we had a few topics, we just kind of wanted to brush over. And I mean, we'll see. We can still kind of preview the season, but also maybe we wanted to get into, if anything, what could go wrong with this team. It's not going to be a negative Friday, but we figured we can kind of dig into some of those things that might be of concerns because Dodgers fans, we're going to be nitpicking all season, and Dodgers fans want to know what might go wrong. But before we do, reminder that everyone here at the Blue Review, we are presented by LAX, powered by our friends at LAX. You can learn more at flylax.com/transforminglAX. A lot going on over there, transforming the travel experience and just more. The travelers, the people's train, all this good stuff that Sedano you hear every day talk about. A lot of great stuff over there. So if you want to learn more, flylax.com/transforminglAX. But Greg, let's do this. I know you had the topic of maybe what could go wrong. Yeah, well, I was curious where you wanted to go with that.
So basically, Marcus, it really comes down to this team is so good, and that's what we're going to talk about all year. How great they are. They're going to walk into 100 games. They have the greatest pitching staff of all time. They have the greatest 1 through 9 of all time. They have the greatest 1 through 9 backup of all time. They have the pitching staff or the coaching staff. They have the greatest front office. Everything is just hunky dory and amazing and wonderful. That can't be all we talk about for an entire year of baseball. 162 games plus playoffs. So where would those possible, if anything was to go wrong, if there's anything that's wrong with this team, like I know we've talked about over the last couple of days that the outfield defense could be an issue. I think that's my biggest issue of all of it. But if you see anything, where are those little things that could go wrong in this team?
Yeah, I mean, outfield defense is going to be the one thing. And here's the thing. Even with that, I think those guys, they don't have to be great. They just have to not be terrible, right? Like that's all. I think that's all we're asking. Just don't be terrible because this team's going to score enough. The pitching's going to be good enough. I mean, I think the other thing that potentially could go wrong, which is always sort of an issue, is injuries in the sense of, I mean, you look right now, you look up and down the 40-man roster, and there are a lot of guys already on the IL. I mean, we talked a little bit yesterday about Brusdar Graterol. He's gone for half the season. The expectation, obviously, Clayton Kershaw is not coming back until mid-season. River Ryan's probably, we're not going to see him. We may not see Gavin Stone. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are already on the extended IL, but even, the Tony Gonsolins of the world, Michael Kopech, Evan Phillips, these guys who are on the 15-day IL that they're sort of trying to figure out. The issue being how much do these things sort of linger? Do they sort of carry on? Now, granted, it's still March and we have a long way to go to get to September and October, but how much is this going to linger into the season? How much are you going to tax your bullpen? Because look, even with a 6-man rotation, we're not expecting that we're going to see guys go more than 6 innings in a start, right? Like the occasional 7 inning, 8 inning start. I mean, what was it? Gavin Stone throwing a complete game last year was mind blowing, because it just doesn't happen anymore. So does this tax the bullpen in April through September so that we're sort of worried about it in October again? I don't know. I mean, I will admit that even that seems like me doing some mental gymnastics to try to create a problem for this team right now because, I think that's, I don't know, just we've seen so many pitching issues the last few years, guys, that maybe that's one thing to kind of keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, this like last year, I got a lot of hell for it. I tried to create these like villains basically throughout the year. Gavin Lux was a villain.
Villain Vesia, yeah, man.
Yeah, Villain Vesia until he turned it all around. Because like when you have this great team, you have to find something to be like, okay, this is what we have to focus on. And all those things that you mentioned, the bullpen, that is something that could be an issue. But you look at it and you're like, well, look what they have in that bullpen. And it's so deep and it's so long. And it just makes it so it's like, is that going to be an issue? Bullpens are volatile. Blake Trinan could fall off. All of a sudden, his arm is just like he can't get any of his spin on his ball, or nothing. It just stops working. He is the type of guy that goes 1 year good, 1 year bad, 1 year good, 1 year bad. So those are all possibilities. But I don't know. I look around like the diamond, and I don't see that guy that I'm like, that's the problem. Like the Gavin Lux around the diamond. That's not. You don't have that guy. Everybody is interchangeable. People are moving. There's plenty of places. There's guys in minors. So you're like, okay, if Miguel Rojas isn't working and Mookie Betts is still out, you can bring up Haesung Kim from the minors. And it's like there's just it's so deep. I can't find it. I do think that outfield defense, what we talked about, could be an issue. Parker, do you see anything? Do you see any possible places where that could be a negative?
It's tough. I think the first thing that comes to mind is maybe just that they've got a numbers problem. We've never seen a team. Granted, our guy Doc has done a great job of managing tons of stars, but we've just never seen a team to this extent where there are so many players and so many people to where you don't know if it's going to be as difficult. But before I get into any more of my spiel about what could go wrong with the Dodgers, I wanted to introduce a very special guest, as long as I can get him on camera. I know he's right here. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Travis Rodgers is joining us.
Hey!
The first Blue Review
What's going on?
of the season. What's going on, buddy? I know. We've talked about this a ton, Travis. Like we had those 2 days to talk about something actually significant, and then we've had yesterday and today of like, what do we talk about? There's nothing left. And the whole topic today is they're so good everywhere. Where is there even, besides maybe outfield defense, is there something that could be looked at as a negative on this team?
Happen, but it's not like, hey, they're missing a left-handed arm in the bullpen or a power bat off the bench. They really don't have like a glaring baseball hole, in my opinion.
Yeah, Parker, the chat is saying they can't hear Travis, but apparently
no, we can hear Travis.
We can hear Travis, but apparently everybody else.
Fine. So everybody's just hearing nothingness. But you had so many great things to say.
That might have been the best I've ever been.
Yeah, fully missed it.
Yeah. So something we've never seen before, Travis. You were mentioning now that the chat can hear us. The chat can hear everyone. So Travis, you were mentioning, this is just something we've never seen. 2 mega all-stars weren't even playing, and yet they were still doing it. It's basically solidifying a playoff spot. Why don't we go ahead and hear that
Mookie Betts, if you were saying who's the best player in baseball and your answer was Mookie Betts, no one's looking at you weird, right? That's a perfectly fine answer. Right. If you said who's the best first baseman in all of baseball and your answer is Freddie Freeman, nobody's looking at you weird. That's a perfectly fine answer. They didn't have either one of those guys, and it was a mismatch. Right. It's that they could fill in as effectively as they did, that they have so many guys that are so good at so many different things, that they pitch the way that they do, that they're going to win games, on bad pitching nights, 10-6. On good pitching nights, they can win games 3-1. Like, it's just, they've got every shot in the bag, and it's going to be really fun to watch. And I understand people's frustration about this is a little unfair, and I don't care, right? Whatever. But it's going to be fun to watch because it's pretty rare to go out and watch a baseball game and not only have a chance to win, but be the very likely winner every time you step on the field.
Travis, it seems like the biggest issue for Dave Roberts is just trying to keep everybody happy. I mean, you've got so many guys in this lineup. I mean, we're just looking at the outfield, right? When you've got to get Teoscar in there every day. Edman's going to play a lot. Now you've got Conforto that can give you some at bats. Pages is probably going to be around. Go to the infield with Freddie and Mookie, and you're going to bring up Ha-Seong Kim. It just seems like Dave Roberts is going to struggle to get guys consistent at bats and keep those guys sort of satisfied on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'll steal the line from every manager that has ever faced the problem of I've got too many guys for not enough spots. Mm-hmm. The thing they always say, Marcus, that I've always kind of fallen back on when this is the topic is these things tend to sort themselves out. These things tend to find a way of fixing themselves. But it would be pretty nice to get Teoscar off his feet one day a week. It would be pretty nice to, occasionally give Mookie a day off, occasionally give a player like Freeman a day off. And you do have some flexibility with guys like Edman, I should say, and Kike, you can spot them in so many different places, and it really doesn't affect your team in any negative way. That you can kind of shuffle the deck and keep guys fresh. I think Conforto might fall into more of a platoon situation where that gives, whether it's Pages or whoever else it might be, not getting a ton of at-bats. I like Dave's ability to do that. I like that they have guys that can play 5 different spots and you're not really sacrificing a whole bunch. So I'll say it one more time. These things tend to take care of themselves.
Yep, they sure do. And I think one thing that we talked about yesterday, Trev, is that Chris Taylor is going to find his way into the lineup at some point. He's going to be Chris Taylor, CP3, the guy that looks like me, white guy beard.
Oh, right.
Right. But he's going to find his way into the lineup. He's going to play 3-4 times a week because they want to see what he's going to have before they do anything. That face is telling me you don't agree. What they did last year was we want to give him at least 100 to 200 at bats. Yeah. I assume, because it's his last year and they don't want to just DFA him, what they assume that's something that's going to happen this year too, especially early on when they're so good, finding his way into at second base or in left field or in right field to find. There's always going to be a spot. What do you see for Chris Taylor this year?
I don't see much, frankly, Greg. I think that he is the odd man out. I think when you look at that team and what these guys bring, and the one skill that I think Chris Taylor still brings at a pretty high level is versatility. Like you said, you could play him virtually at any position in the infield. You could play him in any position in the outfield, and he's going to be okay. But his offense is nearly a zero at this point in his career. And like Marcus was saying a second ago, they have so many other guys that are Edman can play all over the field. Hernandez can play all over the field. Rojas can play the entire infield. Like, you have a lot of guys that you can move around. Mookie, could theoretically play 4 different positions. You could play center, right, short, second, and you're pretty good. So they've got the ability to shuffle. I don't think you need to get him a ton of at-bats because if I had to make a prediction, I don't think Chris Taylor's on this team by the end of the year. I think that they do move on from him. I think that they do find a way to get a better player in that spot. So I don't think getting him ready, right, sharp is on the to-do list on a daily basis.
Sorry, so you don't think at the beginning of the year when they're going to be doesn't really matter, just to give him at bats to be like, okay, show us you got something. If not, we're going to let you go.
I think those at bats go to Pages. I think the at-bats that Taylor would typically have go to Pages, because Pages he either is or isn't going to be an important part of this team this year, next year, beyond. They need to figure out if he's a major league center fielder, if he's a major league hitter. He was a guy starting in center field for some of those World Series games. He's a part of the plan, maybe. Chris Taylor is not. So I got to get more data on Pages than I do Taylor. Taylor was a great Dodger, is a great Dodger, and I'm glad he was here and he got some big hits and made some big plays. But I think the Chris Taylor era is just all but over.
You talk about Pages and getting him some at-bats. That also sort of sounds like the clock's ticking on James Outman too, just because, again, he's another guy that just seems like they can't really find consistent at-bats for at the major league level. When they have, I think we're all sort of waiting for him to come around, but he just continues to look lost. And if there's just no spots for him, I wonder what his future in the organization is going to be.
Yeah, Marcus, I agree. I think he had a shot and he missed it. And that's rough because you'd like to have a guy have more than one real good chance at it. And This Dodger team is so talented and so deep and so competitive that they really don't have. I guess you can look at it both ways. They have nothing but time and luxury to give a guy a chance to grow, but they're not messing around. They gave him a chance. He thrived early, then he struggled, and we never really got the bounce back that you were hoping to see. It's so feels so weird and dirty to say it. They have much better players than him.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean he's not a major leaguer. That doesn't mean that he doesn't stick some, think of Michael Busch in Chicago right now. Michael Busch is a really good major league player. They just didn't have a spot to put him.
Yeah.
And that may be the future of Outman. It may be the future of Pajes. Like these guys that are good major leaguers, they're just blocked by better ones at the big league level. And I think Outman might fall into that category.
So another guy that could be just like that, I think we've had this conversation obviously yesterday as well. Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing was put into the outfield. He's a catcher first, but he could be blocked from coming up as long as Austin Barnes is there. I just don't see where they're going to find places for him, especially if it's not going to be in the outfield.
Yeah.
So what happens to Dalton Rushing?
To me, Greg, I think that's one of the more interesting things this year is when do you bring him up? And if you bring him up, how much does he play? And if you bring him up, what happens to Austin Barnes? Obviously Barnes has been around a long time and he's another one. He's been a really good Dodger. And I would hate to see him, get cut or DFA'd or whatever. That would be too bad because I have fond feelings for him and his career as a Dodger, but Rushing's next and you got to start getting these guys ready. And from my understanding, the outfield thing is something they tried that maybe they didn't love, that he's going back to catching more full time. And Will Smith's not going anywhere. Ohtani's your DH every single day. So that doesn't give you the opportunity to put Will Smith somewhere else. And that doesn't mean a ton of opportunities for whoever the second catcher is. So what's better, to have Rushing in the minor leagues, playing a lot and getting better and getting ready, or watching in the big leagues, occasionally getting some playing time and, maybe not getting the reps that he needs. That's a tough call for Dave, for Andrew Friedman, for Gomes, for all these guys, because he's, one of their best prospects. But again, you've got a guy that's on a track to go to the Hall of Fame in front of him. It's where do you get him at bats? Where do you get him reps?
Yeah, it seems as if like the issues with this team will definitely be the micro, like managing those small things. One thing on the topic of keeping people happy that we didn't get to yet, on the pitching end, of course, we've talked about this, and Dustin May being named the 5th. How do we keep guys like Gonsolin happy, guys like, coming back from injury who will want to get into that rotation, but then you already have a plethora of basically Cy Young candidates.
Yeah, I if I were Andrew Friedman or Mark Walter, whoever has their hands on the checkbook at the end of the decision making process, I would build like an airport from Dodger Stadium to Oklahoma City, because they're just going to go back and forth the entire time. You're going to get so many guys that are down for a period of time, right? And they're already, like, Yamamoto is kind of a once a week guy. Sasaki, they're thinking about a once a week guy. That when Shohei comes back, they're going to be incredibly careful and cautious about how you use him. I think the only guy that you could feel really good about on every 5th day he's going is Snell. Glasnow is a guy that has been awesome, but always hurt. So you're going to see guys take a lot of time, maybe be down for a period of time, bringing guys back. There will be innings for Tony Gonsolin. There will be innings for those guys. Think about Landon Knack. Landon Knack's probably a 3 or a 4 on 25 teams in the major leagues. He can't.
AAA.
Yeah, he can't. Like that. Landon Knack pitched a bunch of really big games for the Dodgers last year, and he's just fighting to get innings. And it's like we started this conversation with. I have never seen anything like this, where really good players are struggling to find a way to get on the field or on the mound. It's a problem I never thought I'd see, but it's kind of fun to think about.
So with all that said, what happens with, I'm just going to call him starter emeritus, Clayton Kershaw, whenever he comes back, right? Because, I mean, we understand what Kershaw is at this point in his career, but we also understand what he means to the organization. Like, it feels like that's sort of the one Jenga piece that we don't really know how it's going to fit in when the time comes. I mean, any thoughts to that?
Yeah. So he's on the 60-day IL, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that is 2 months. So let's say we're now towards the end of May. All right. Somebody or some bodies will be down by then. That's just baseball modern. You're gonna have some guys that are down. So so there's presumably an opening for him at that point to pitch a little bit. We'll see how he does. We'll see what it looks like. We'll see where they are. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about with some of those younger players. Like, you do have the ability to kind of just go, let's just see what happens, because you're not fighting for a division. You're not fighting for, anything other than the next game. So they could throw him some innings here or there. But Marcus, I think you're onto something that I'm fascinated by, is how much will he pitch? He's 36 strikeouts short of 3,000. Does he strike out a guy an inning? No, probably not anymore, right? No. So to get him to 3,000 strikeouts means he's got to pitch, in my opinion, about 50-ish innings. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's say he gets 10 starts. I don't think he will, but let's say he gets 10 starts. He's got to pitch 5 innings in each of those starts to get to 50. That's probably unlikely. Yeah. He probably doesn't go beyond 5 innings very often. So you got to get him more than 10 starts. Or he's got to strike out guys at some crazy rate to get there. This to me is one of the more interesting things. Is he going to get to the 3,000 this year? Because I can make a pretty compelling case that he doesn't. And now we're talking about this again next year. And I like your line, like an emeritus starter. Yeah, okay, cool. But we got guys. And if it were anybody other than Clayton Kershaw, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
No.
Anybody else would be, thank you for your service, good luck, or you're a special assistant to the general, whatever it is. But I think he's going to get it. I just don't know if he's going to get it this year.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, I think they're going to give him as many, especially with the way they're going to be in this division. Most likely they're going to have a 15, 20, 30, 40 game lead at some point during that time. I mean, like, the knock on wood, obviously. But for the most part, I think they're going to have a nice, decent lead that they can give them those 10 starts. If he goes 5 and they say they give him a couple, I think they're going to do everything they can to get him to that 36 strikeouts, so he doesn't have to do this all over again.
Yeah.
He came back just for this, because I also think he'll come back next year if he doesn't get to. I don't think he wants to be Fred McGriff and be 7 home runs shy of 300. I think he wants to get to that. It's just a little check mark on his Hall of Fame resume that's already there.
36 strikeouts is not nothing. He's going to have to pitch a decent amount of innings to get to 30. This is not, prime Kershaw where he's getting a strikeout and a half an inning. It's not that. He's going to have to pitch a lot of innings to get there. And, this entire conversation has been based on there aren't enough innings and at-bats for these guys to get on the field. And you got a guy that's 37 that has been, hurt a lot lately, coming off of a toe injury, coming off of a shoulder injury. Didn't pitch hardly at all last year, and now we're asking him to throw 50 plus innings. That seems like that's a lot.
So I will say this before we get out of here. Last year, 7 starts. In 4 of them, he had at least 5 strikeouts.
Okay.
So, just putting that out there. That's all.
Good. Okay. I hope that it checks the box, because he's terrific. He's on the short list of greatest Dodgers ever. And you want him to get all of these accolades and accomplishments. You just hope that it doesn't become a slog where you're throwing him random innings here or there just so he could pick up a K, in September against the Rockies in a game that is completely, utterly meaningless.
Right. I could really see some type of hitters just being like the Pujols. Pujols just got a ball that was for his 600. Was it 600 home runs?
Yeah.
They put it right down the middle for him to hit a home run. They said, here's your 600 home runs, sir. That's what they're going to do. Like, all right, oops, I swung right through it.
I mean, hey, look, we need the baseball equivalent of Brett Favre laying down for Michael Strahan. That's what we need.
For sure.
Well, Travis Rodgers, thank you so much for joining us. Before we head out the chat, did I have a question for you? We're going to be seeing you out at Ring Night or Opening Day, either one, Thursday, Friday, respectively.
Oh, if somebody wants to float me a ticket, let's go. Let's go. Yeah, no, it's been a million years since I've been to Opening Day. Like, I haven't been to a Dodger home opener in probably 20 years. Yeah, shoot, I'm in. Let's go.
There we go. There we go.
At 4 o'clock. You're off at 1.
Oh, look, I'm in, man. Yeah,
I need to make it happen.
Let's make it happen. You guys, I'm down. Let's go.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Well, Travis, again, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone in the chat for tuning in. Greg, Marcus, Ivan Parker Bell, on behalf of the Blue Review. Shout out to LAX. Shout out to BC in the chat, who was watching on his flight from LAX. So
Hey.
thank you very much.
There you go.
We will see you Monday, 8:30 to 8:55. Maybe reacting to their match against the Halos Sunday at 5. But I mean, what's there to talk about with the Halos? Catch you next time.
All right. See you. Thanks, Jeff.